Hi, good evening everybody. Welcome to tonight's video workshop. My name's Duncan from Solar Events and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. So tonight's session is called How to Make Any Therapy More Effective, and I'm really delighted to have the wonderful Chris Milbank with us this evening as our special guest. Chris is a very experienced therapist. He's been involved in a wide variety of modalities over a number of years, and he's also the creator of reflective repatterning. I'm going to let him explain to you more about what that is to start the call off tonight. So without further ado, let's get started. And good evening, Chris. Welcome to tonight's call. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Duncan, for having me here. And I see we have someone all the way from Arkansas, and there's quite a few international as well as national calls, so that's fantastic. Great.
Oh wow, yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this session. There's been a lot of interest about the topic tonight, so let's just get started straight away. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Reflective repatterning is a treatment of opposites. Many people come with an issue and they want it resolved, and a lot of the therapy treatments will only partly treat the issue. Many people are treating themselves for anger or emotions, all sorts of things, and they're doing this quite often on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So with reflective repatterning, I wanted something that would get more down to the core. And, what is it that's upsetting people? If somebody really hates the dishonesty, then it means that they really love honesty. The more that they value honesty, the more they will dislike dishonesty. The more people love taking action, the more they will dislike people or themselves taking inaction. And so it's these opposites. If we deal with our frustrations or emotional issues and treat how angry we are, how frustrated we are by someone's dishonesty or by someone's inaction, and we feel better, that's great. But the chances are it's going to happen again. And that's because we haven't dealt with the opposite. We need to treat our excess love of something as well as the opposite issue. If I still love action, I'm going to get frustrated again by inaction again and again and again. If I really love freedom, I will really dislike being trapped. If I really love and light and angels and fairies at the bottom of the garden, I'm going to be really terrified of the dark side. And so what we need to do is to balance. And reflective repatterning is all about balance. It's about creating neutrality. I designed reflective repatterning to fit with any effective therapy. But we mainly use it within what we call energy psychology techniques. Energy psychology techniques plug into the electrical circuitry of the body. Most of us have heard of acupuncture and the use of needles. An acupuncturist would put needles in the body and it would dam up the energy, quite often the emotional energy. And where there isn't much emotional energy in the body, when they take the needles out, it becomes like a broken dam. A wave of energy passes through and clears a lot of emotional blocks and physical blocks to healing. Sometimes when there is too much excess energy in any one area, they will bridge the metal needles and arc out the electricity and just get it out of the system. What we do is we don't use needles. Some of you may have heard of EFT, emotional freedom technique, or thought field therapy, where we tap certain acupuncture points on the body in certain orders. And this works to heal the excess emotional energy that we may have. It can also work with physical symptoms and physical pain too. We have devised reflective repatterning to not only work with these tapping therapies, but to work with another tool, the tapper's acupressure technique, that rather than tapping one point at a time, actually uses 14 of these major energy points at a time. Many of you may have been to a therapist, maybe a talking therapist, and talked about a problem and felt that there was some better understanding and you found ways forward. Some of you may have treated with energy psychology techniques a particular issue or a trauma. There are many other modalities, hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming, that work very effectively too. But I can quite honestly say that anybody who's been treated effectively by these wonderful treatments, that we can find another layer of the issue and the problem that may be holding them back in other ways. Maybe they're not too conscious of, but it's affecting their health. I remember going to many of these tapping trainings which I've taught and said, you know, what is it that you've been treated for? And somebody said, oh, I've been treated for my anger about someone's really poor driving when they had an accident. And I said, I absolutely feel fine about it now. So I said to them, just close your eyes and just think these words. I love that car accident, or I'd love it to happen again. And emotional resistance. Now, I didn't put that emotional resistant energy inside them. They already held it. I just showed them how to trigger it, how to bring it to the surface. So we treat the loving of a negative issue and how we feel about it. That's treating the resistance to loving it, as well as the dislike of it. Maybe that person would have been more affected by an accident if they valued safety as one of their most important values. And therefore, if they love safety, they may well hate danger or whatever their opposite is. Maybe it's adventure. And the more they hate danger or adventure, the more important safety is. But the more they love safety, the more they will dislike adventure or danger. And so I call these opposite polarities, like a north end and a south end of a magnet. And we treat both ends. And that is really what we're doing in reflective repatterning. There's 47 main frameworks of working in opposites now. So how do we make a therapy more powerful or more effective? Well, we certainly would apply various laws of opposites. But we would also listen for key words that the client says, kind of throwaway lines. Quite often in the first two sentences of somebody that I'm working with, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, they will give a clue about how to treat the issue or the problem. For example, I remember somebody who was very analytical. They'd had a lot of talking therapies which had helped them somewhat understand what was going on in their lives. But through a period of stress, they contacted me by email one day and said, hey, would you work with me? So I said, let's have a chat. And they sent me an email, 9 pages, with every line on the page having 2 or 3 bullet points with traumas in their lives. Now, this would be a lot of therapy. We could get stuck in all the detail. I didn't read all of the email. I didn't want to depress myself a week ahead of time before the phone session. So I made the call on the particular day, and I told a little white lie. I said, you know, I've read all of that. My gosh, you know, all of these traumas, all of these issues in your life. Just close your eyes right now and think about them all at once. How do you feel? And although I couldn't see her, I was working on the telephone without a video or Skype. I could see what she was doing with her body. As she said these words, I feel screwed into the ground, and she twisted her body. I can even hear the twist in the words that she said, the tonality. So I said, how screwed in the ground do you feel right now out of 10? 10 being the most intense and 0 being nothing at all. She said 10. So we treated her for feeling screwed into the ground with all of her problems. In those days, I was treating with tapping, thought-filled therapy, very similar to emotional freedom technique. And we tapped until there was a 0. She felt not bothered by all of them together. So at that point, I got the email up on my laptop and went through each of the bullet points. Many of them had been 7, 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 in intensity. And I went through, I had to think about each one. I had to focus in on her breathing, on her body, and what was going on in her mind, any physical tensions or emotional tensions. And first bullet point, 0, next one, 0, 0, 0, 0. We got a few that were 2 or 3 out of 10, and we tidied those up and treated them. So I call this chunking up. Some people might say the bigger picture. We can get so lost in the detail. It's the detail that quite often keeps us in the problem. For years, we can analyze why we got something. We can talk about it with friends. We can have some counseling, get a better understanding. Sometimes we find a way forward. But quite often, at least elements of it are still there. Another example of chunking up or getting the bigger picture. There was somebody, an international call from the States, and they just wanted to be treated by me. And they gave all sorts of reasons. I listened to 40 minutes worth of reasons. And then I said, stop. I said, I will agree to do a phone session with you, providing you agree to follow my instructions on an email that I'll send you half an hour after our call. Rather skeptically, she agreed. And I asked her to perform an energy psychology hold using the acupuncture points on the body while saying these words inside her head: I'd hate to be treated by Chris Milbank. And of course she had resistance there because she so wanted to be treated by me. And then I love to be treated by Chris Milbank, and we treated the excess loving and wanting and emotional need to be treated because of all these issues in her life. And I got an email back, and it said, I feel so much better. I can't thank you enough. We had another chat and we talked about all the areas in her life, and she was quite happy. So I might have done myself out of some money for working. But what I did, I showed that we don't always need to be stuck in the detail. She was telling me what she needed, and her emotional need for the treatment was kind of like a massive big bag that was holding in all the content of the traumas and issues and things that she felt needed changing in her life. So chunking up can be a very powerful tool. Referring back to opposites. For those that do the talking therapies, counseling and psychotherapy and hypnotherapy as well, and other effective treatments. We don't always need to use energy psychology techniques to have some powerful changes and insights with opposites. So I created a particular framework to be used primarily for those that work with the talking therapies or just want to help themselves sitting at home. And one example was, I'm using made up names, but one day Sally was very upset that her partner didn't listen to her. And she's a listener. She loves to listen, and she would always listen to people. And of course, in our laws of opposites, we talk about how emotionally we attract what we don't want in our life. Emotions can attract the opposite. And so many people that love listening and listeners actually attract people that just talk and talk and talk. So she didn't like not being listened to, and I had her before the session write down 20 or 30 reasons why not being listened to was a wonderful, fabulous, marvelous thing. And of course she said that was impossible because it's not, and so forth. And I gave her 1 or 2 examples. And I said, you know, you really struggle at this. The harder you find this to do, the more you'll get out from this. So after she wrote down 3, 4, 5, her mind was starting to flow. There was more flexibility. There was more communication between left brain, the logical side, the right, emotional, creative side. And she started creating ideas of why not listening and not being listened to was a wonderful, fabulous, marvelous thing. And as that flow started to go, she could really understand the benefits. And then why actually listening and being listened to is a horrible, terrible thing. So we take something that we really love and we write down 20 or 30 reasons why it's a terrible thing. And then we write down something that we really dislike or hate and write why it's a wonderful thing. There are many advantages, for instance, of being dishonest. Sometimes we need to lie to protect our families and loved ones from bad people or dictators or so forth. Sometimes being really honest actually doesn't offer the protection at all. So writing these, what I call RR logical lists, are a great insight. And then those that do hypnotherapy and trance work and even into neuro-linguistic program can actually embed these further into the unconscious mind. Those that also do hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistic programming, which is kind of a software for the mind to help us change state from something that is not helpful to us to something that is, maybe from an anxious state for public speaking to a confident and relaxed state. Well, we can think of something that we really don't like, and we can notice how we feel. We can then think of something that we really do like and notice how we feel. Many of us get upset and we start talking inside of our head and creating horrible pictures about things that we don't like or don't want to do. But when there's something really funny and fun and enjoyable, we might laugh or we might smile. There are practices called laughter yoga where we teach people to laugh, and it's really good. There's all sorts of great research in laughing. And all we do, there are many ways of starting this off, but we can do a ho, ho, ho deep from our belly button, ha, 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 and just do a false laugh, and laugh and laugh and laugh until it becomes natural. And then tune in to a problem that you've got. And what we're doing is we're taking the emotional energy, the physical holding patterns of the body, being stressed and head down and bad tonality, and we are changing the physical appearance of our body, and we're laughing. We would never have laughed at that before. That laughter, that big ho-ho-hoing is creating serotonin in our heads instead of more depressed neurochemicals. We're doing the equal and opposite response. If we were to take a waveform, say 3 fingers, of energy, emotional energy, maybe this is upsettedness, and we brought the exact opposite waveform back 3 fingers, and we brought it together, they would cancel each other out. There are fighter pilots that have types of earphones, and they record the sounds of the engines that would deafen them. And equipment inverts the waveform of the sound and brings it back so they hear nothing. And that is what we're doing. That is what we're doing when we're treating opposites. For some of you that use the EFT, emotional freedom techniques, and thoughtful therapy tappings.
Sorry, Chris, did you want me to just say, with loads of people who just typed in what they have studied, do you want me to just sort of go through them?
Yes, please do, yes.
TFT and EFT came up quite a few times, but there's quite a wide variety of people on the call tonight, so I'll just read them out quickly. Nindi does EFT, chakra healing, emotional code, healing code, and silver method. Pam does a bone technique, TFT, and RR, so she obviously knows you. Helen, TFT, NLP, and also a reflexologist.
Oh, very good.
Layla, EFT to level 1, dance movement therapy, Reiki. I'm just going through people who've written a little bit more. I'm just kind of quickly skimming through here. Anne-Marie, NLP, hypnotherapy, TFT, EFT. Philippa, EFT, TFT, and reflex repatterning, so she also knows you, Chris. Paul, energetic NLP and NLP, so I know Paul. Hi, Paul. Mandy, says most common emotions she deals with her clients are fear, frustration, and feeling powerless in big organizations. Jacqueline does Reiki and is a color therapist. Stephen, NLP, hypnosis, and havening. And someone actually, does laughter yoga, interesting enough, and access consciousness. So there we go. So sorry, I interrupted you there. I just thought I'd read through a few. I think.
Thank you very much. That's actually very helpful. Thank you. Yes, well, I'll start off with the tapping community, those that tap certain acupressure or acupuncture points on the body to release very effectively emotional states, fears, phobias, and traumas, and so forth. The very effect of working with opposites will go a lot deeper. But I actually created a special reflective repatterning opposites technique for any tappers. And it may be that somebody has an issue like, I believe I'm not good enough. That's quite a popular one, or unpopular for the people, that many people seem to come up with that one. It's popularly unpopular.
Yeah.
And so I would have them close their eyes and just say the statement a few times. I believe I'm not good enough. I will ask them to become aware of what they notice, any physical tensions in the body or aches or pains, any emotions like sort of fear or shame or frustration or whatever they are, and point to them. You know, where are they? You feel in your tummy, in your head, your throat, your little finger, wherever they are. And I'll ask them what's going on inside their head, just a little bit like in NLP. I would say, does it seem dark or light or something different beyond any pictures or memories or words? Are your thoughts really quick and rushing around? Or are they slow or still, just stuck? Does it feel heavy or light or something else? And what are you most aware of? And how is your breathing? A lot of people kind of stop breathing, you know? And we'll get a whole mind-body program. And that's what we're going to work on. We're not going to just work on the little bit of emotional energy. We're going to get them more aware, because the more aware they are, awareness is key. The more aware you are of something, the more choices you have to do something about it. So I would have them say, I believe I'm not good enough. I believe I'm not good enough, a few times in their head, get this accessed, and then just say to them, I want you to tell me whether you believe that statement or disbelieve. Or actually, do you agree with that statement or disagree? And how much out of 10? If you 100% agree, it's 10. If you 80% agree, it's 8. And, you know, are you in the total agreeing camp or disagreeing? Generally, they would start off with the agreeing camp, because this is an issue they brought. And we would tap the points while they are thinking in their mind, or even saying out loud if it's helpful, or I can say it for them, I agree that I'm not good enough. And we tap until it's down to a 0. And then I'll ask them and say, okay, so you're a 0 on agreeing. Now keep saying that statement, I believe I'm not good enough. Close your eyes, notice what's going on in your mind, your body, energy systems, your breathing. Do you now agree or disagree? Well, generally they start to go into disagreeing at this point, and it might be they're only 2 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 in disagreeing with the statement. So we tap away until they're a 0. And then once they're a 0, I then think of what's the opposite of that statement for you, and many might say, the opposite would be, I'm absolutely good enough, or I'm absolutely the best in the world. And I go, close your eyes. Keep saying, I'm absolutely the best in the world. Notice your breathing, what's going on in your head. Is it dark? Is it light? Is it heavy? Is it quick? Is it something else? What are you aware of? How are you physically, emotionally? How's your body posture? How's your breathing? We get a whole mind, body, and energy program up. And then I'll say, do you agree or do you disagree with that statement? I'm absolutely the best in the world. And most of them at that point would probably go into the disagree camp, and I'll say, okay, how much do you disagree out of 10? 10 is the most you disagree, and if you agree, and 10 is the most you agree. And they might say a 10, I disagree with that, or a 5, and we'll tap away until they, at a 0, we're disagreeing. Again, we'll get the whole mind-body program up, thinking about, I'm the best in the world. And then we'll say, what do you do now, agree or disagree? And they generally go to agree, but they might only agree a little bit, you know. So we tap away until they agree more fully. Or if they're agreeing, pardon me, I'm going the wrong way. If they're agreeing, they might say 5 out of 10. I'll tap away until they're a 0. Because what I want is a state of neutrality. A state of neutrality where they're not going to always think they're the best in the world, because some things, you know, some people are incompetent because they haven't learned. We all know people with so much ego, I could do this and I could do that, and have all the confidence in the world but very little competence. We want people to feel great if they're the best in the world at what they do. We want people to know that they can achieve. We don't want people to be overly confident, thinking the best in the world, when they clearly haven't been trained or don't know enough about the subject. We don't also want them to think they're just not good enough to ever learn. So we want a state of neutrality, and a state of neutrality means that you can go more towards I'm the best in the world, or more towards I'm not good enough at this yet, or somewhere in between. So when they are good at something, they can go that way, and when they're not good at something, they go that way, and not feel bad about it. Just feel good. Neutrality is not a state of feeling nothing. It's a state of unconditional love. It's like a flow. And you're just okay. You're feeling good, whether you're not good at it or whether you are good at it. It's a very powerful way to make changes. Traditionally, tapping might have been tapping all the things that they're not good enough at, and all the times that they had a bad experience doing it, and so forth. And that can be somewhat effective, but it takes quite a long time, and it doesn't necessarily work with the beliefs. You've also mentioned there's a lot of people doing physical work, reflexology, wonderful. The Bowen technique, absolutely wonderful. I love these treatments, experienced many of these. And I went off for rolfing. I used to have massage, Feldenkrais work. I experienced lots of body work and have some knowledge in these areas to treat people as well.
Sorry, Chris, just before you go on to talk about, I've just got a question about EFT, which someone's asked.
Yes.
So do you mind if I just while we're on the topic?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, so it's a question from Crystal. She says she uses EFT with her clients. That's the main thing she's mentioned. She says it can sometimes work really miraculously with people. She describes it when she initially works with them, but then the problem will come back
Yes.
like a few days or maybe weeks later, and she just wonders why that might be.
Well, there's actually several reasons, and thank you very much. What a great question. There is a number of reasons. In fact, there can be many reasons, but I'll pinpoint a few. What we got to look at is, I don't know what, say, the issue is. Maybe it's an anger issue. And we can tap away at our anger or frustration, maybe our partners, our work, colleagues, politics, whatever that is. And we're not always necessarily treating the opposite of that emotion. So we would have to find the person's individual emotion. So maybe an opposite of anger is joy or happiness. And a lot of people will have resistance. In fact, more emotional resistance they'll hold on to joy or happiness than actually the anger they hold in themselves at all. And that might be well, I don't want to be happy because they're doing this and they're aggressive and they don't listen to me and they're this and they're that and they're not taking action and I've told them again and again and again. So there's a huge resistance to the opposite state which they really want to be in. So we can tap away the anger, we'll lessen it, but they haven't got anywhere else to go. So that's one key area. But why is that emotion coming up, whether it's anger or shame or guilt or sadness or whatever? And where do these emotions come from? Well, often they come from a conflict in values. So a neighbor is a very good friend of mine. I used to share an apartment with for a while, and I found him the most impossible person. I found him extremely selfish and rude and insensitive and all the things that I felt that I was right about. I was more generous and I was more sensitive and more emotional and more caring and so forth. And so back in my tapping days and NLP days, I'd go off to the bathroom every few minutes and treat myself for my emotion, but I kept finding they're coming back. I looked at why was I getting upset with this person or this thing in some people's cases, and selfishness. Well, if they're selfish, what am I that's not selfish? What's the opposite that I think I am? Generous. So I would treat the resistance I had inside of me of loving selfishness. I couldn't love selfishness. I couldn't, because I love generosity. How can I love selfishness? So I treated the resistance inside of me for generosity, for loving selfishness. And then I also treated my dislike or hatred of selfishness. Then I went to the opposite and I treated my huge resistance to hating generosity. And then I treated my excess emotional love and need and wanting for generosity. Why would someone love generosity? Well, maybe one of their parents wasn't very generous and didn't give them a lot, and internally they felt bad and they want to correct the world. They want to give generosity to everybody, and so therefore anything that's not generous is bad. So we treat the whole mind-body programs, and we not only do that within ourselves, we think of other people being generous and selfish, and we treat the loving and the hating. Ourselves, I love, adore and enjoy being selfish to other people for the fun of it. Most people would go like that if they hated selfishness. I haven't put that emotional energy in them. They already own it. We're surfacing it. We treat it, and so forth. And we do this in our whole sort of, there's 18 parts to the basic framework of RR where we treat in opposites. So that may well be an issue as well. But the other issue with tapping, I worked alongside the late and the very great Dr. Roger Callahan, very, very closely teaching his advanced thoughtful therapy tapping trainings around the world. And they would talk of psychological reversal, and psychological reversal is the emotional energy and physical energy in the body that is literally being reversed. And when it is being reversed, you cannot treat the issue. So we tap certain points on our hand and under our nose, and there's areas on our chest that actually reverse and correct that reversal of energy, and then we can treat. But with certain conditions like anxieties and health conditions, a treatment can be done if something triggers, a treatment can get undone if a reversal happens. And the beauty of reflective repatterning is that as we're working in opposites, we never ever have the problem of psychological reversal. It was one of the greatest discoveries of all. How to get any ineffective treatment to perhaps work is to correct psychological reversal. Well, what is psychological reversal? It's a reversal of energy. And so if they're treating the hatred or dislike of the car accident, the earthquake, their phobia of heights, what they're not doing is treating their love for it. I love being at the edge of the cliff and jumping off. Yeah. And that creates that reversal of energy. So when we treat in opposites, psychological reversal really becomes irrelevant to a certain extent. With tapping, if we don't jump from one opposite to the other very, very quickly, then and we stay on one thing, a reversal can happen. But if we go from one to the other very quickly, or we use other techniques, then the psychological reversal is really not an issue or problem. So hopefully that's answered that question. There's quite a bit
Fantastic.
more.
That's a great answer. Thanks very much. That was really good. Really...
Physical body work, the bowing, the massage, the rolfing, the reflexology, the many, many wonderful, fabulous techniques. Many of us, like myself, I used to love to go to these treatments and be knocked out by them. They just become super relaxed. They treat us physically and they shift emotional problems and issues out, and we feel it being released and the stress coming out, and we feel wonderful. And I used to fall asleep during the treatments, and I'd go away feeling very, very relaxed. But weeks and months later, the physical holding patterns that the body therapist has been working with can start to come back because we haven't really cleared the issues that may be triggering these depressed responses, these angry responses. So what I started doing with the physical body work that I do and other treatments, I use cold laser and bioresonance and mind entrainment, neurofeedback and so forth, is that I would often have the person think of their worst nightmare or their most presenting issue or problem during the treatment, and their whole body would stiffen up. And perhaps they wouldn't go off to sleep or go out as deeply relaxed. But our bodies react, our energy fields react, the fascia, the connective tissue under the skin that holds tight to every muscle and organ and gland and bone in the body when there's problems going on. It all tightens up even more. So as we begin to relax the body physically with whatever body technique, reflexology, and they're focusing on their worst nightmare, their worst issue, guess what? They calm down to their issue or their problem. Their issue or their problem will not make them a 10 out of 10 anymore. Maybe it makes them an 8 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. And a number of treatments done this way, focusing on what really causes the problem while relaxing the body, while relaxing the mind with neurofeedback type techniques or mind entrainment, left-right brain synchronizers. I do a thing called alpha biotics, which balances left and right brain, or head pulls as we call them. And I remember one day somebody I knew very well, they really had a problem with their mother. They came like this, and I said, "You need a head pull." "I'm too stressed to have one of those." And they said, "Oh, you'll feel relaxed." So I got them to lie down. They were kind of swearing at me and kind of wanted to bite me and punch me and whatever. And we had them lie down. I said, and I would normally say, think of something nice and pull the head and balance the brain. And so she kind of just went, "I've got to think of something nice." I said, "Yeah, think of something nice." Just as I was ready to pull the head, I said, "Think of your mother." And she went, "Ugh!" And I pulled the head, and there was immediate relaxation of the brain to the issue of her mother. And she was one of the quickest treatments I ever did. It took about 3 seconds. We met with equal and opposite force. It was a powerful brain retraining exercise, and I gave her the worst stressful situation with the most powerful physical brain treatment exercise we could do, certainly at the time, and boom, you know. Somebody mentioned the wonderful treatment havening, the depotentiating the amygdala. I call it decoding the brain of trauma. An amazing technique and very powerful. And work with opposites. You know, think of the issue, but think of loving the issue. Think of the opposite of the issue. You know, it works very well within the havening technique. Extremely well. So it's about somebody actually just the other day I was working with sleep apnea and extreme anxiety, pacing up and down constantly all night long, maximum ever 2 hours sleep. And I was using some physical stuff, I was using some mind stuff, and I had them focus the whole time on the things that bothered them the most. And that made them the most anxious, so it made the treatment longer and longer before we can get them to a relaxed state. After the first night, 8 hours of sleep. Because they weren't just focusing on quieting their mind and relaxing. We were surfacing all the stuff that was going on in them. I was like saying, you know, get it as bad as you can get, and I will power up these devices, and I will, you know, I'll work on the physical, I'll work on the emotional, I'll work on the mind training, I will work on the lot, and I will attempt to do equal and opposite force. And second night, not quite 8 hours, but 7 hours and so forth after that, certainly not pacing up and down all night. So it's about meeting equal and opposite force. Yeah, very definitely the way to go forward there. Beliefs are huge. You know, we need to look at beliefs. You know, again, it's chunking up to bigger picture. If somebody's got a phobia of going on a cruise ship, maybe they believe that the world is flat. You know, the Flat Earth Society, as the NLP genius Richard Bandler would say. And, you know, it doesn't matter how you treat them with their fear or the phobia if they still have the belief the world is flat. Because if they're going on around the world cruise, they know they're going to fall off the edge of the earth. So some people actually need evidence even before we treat their emotions and fears. We might show them satellite pictures of from outer space of the earth actually being round. We may have them speak to the captain of the ship and talk about all the different places around the world he's been with that ship. And they would probably still be skeptical. So we'd have them talk to hundreds of passengers who've been on the cruise ship around the world and have actually been quite safe. So we can give evidence for beliefs. Beliefs like that, some beliefs actually need evidence. So we may well give some evidence, and then we will treat the fears and phobias about it. Beliefs are easy to crash as well. We can treat in energy psychology techniques. I believe I'm not good enough. I disbelieve I'm not good enough. I truly believe I'm not good enough. I truly disbelieve I'm not good enough. I 100% completely and utterly and thoroughly believe I'm not good enough. I 100% utterly, completely and thoroughly disbelieve I'm not good enough. And we can treat like that. We can treat this in constant flow of unconscious suggestions in hypnosis, hypnotherapy, NLP, trance work. We can do this within the techniques of EMDR, eye movement desensitization, reprocessing technique, where they're moving the eyes and getting the brain to access different senses and work between left and right brain. Again, I would treat in opposites. A pal of mine, she was really upset by a whole host of things and came round one morning and just wanted to talk to me about all the different things that she was upset on. I got a little device of Bioresonance, and this works within the energy systems of the body. And I said, by all means, tell me everything you like and moan and whinge and shout and spit, but only if you wear this device. And I put the device on for the anti-stress program. And it works to relax the sympathetic nervous system, bring out the parasympathetic, the vagus nerve, the hypothalamus, and so forth. And so she was giving and talking about all this stress that would have wound her up even more, and said why this person was an idiot and why her life was terrible. And at the same time, this powerful tool was relaxing and relaxing and relaxing. And the voice started to slow down, and then she started to giggle about the issue. Opposites are very powerful, and meeting equal and opposite force is a very good way forward. I'm noticing the time. There's 10 minutes left. I could talk on any one of these subjects for many hours, but is there some questions that other people want?
Yeah, I was just going to mention to the time. It seems to come very quickly. Someone was just asking about how this could be used with hypnotherapy.
Hypnotherapy, very, very good. I would suggest one of the ways is to write down reasons why a good thing is bad and a bad thing is good. And we can use very gently suggestions like that, and the unconscious mind would take this in. And in rather than, you know, thinking of something that's bad and we go like that, if there's reasons why it could be good and how it could be useful in the life, rather than firing off that neural pathway that makes someone go like that, it's now got a choice. It go, that could be useful when the body relaxes. Or if it's in a state where that really wouldn't be useful, they go, and they've got a choice. So it helps them create choice. We can use by having someone really relaxed, deep relaxed trance, really deep relaxed trance, and then constantly giving feedback and unconscious suggestions, direct and indirect, to create a relaxed state. But gradually keeping the relaxed state, changing their thought over to something that stresses them. It's a little bit similar in some ways to what they were doing in New Code NLP, where we bring in two opposing states. So that's another good way. So rather than just giving sort of suggestions as a way forward and having their unconscious mind generalize a way forwards, we can actually retrain the mind and the body to bring these together. Would be a very, very powerful way forward. Indirect suggestions, why loving a bad thing is good. And, you know, we talk about things, people talk of evil, and they're, evil, you know, what is it that evil or bad does? Well, often it brings us the things that we fear the most. And if we treat what we fear the most, then evil or bad really doesn't have the power over us anymore. So again, this is kind of chunking up. You know, a lot of people put things under category of bad or evil or horrid or whatever, and we can use these sort of bigger picture frameworks, and we can lessen our response to these. And then, of course, if we're doing evil or bad or horrid, we look at the opposite and work through those. People that we love or things that we love the most is a signal for healing. Why is that? Well, if I love my certain friends and family and partners, maybe they are secure in themselves, or they've got, some of them are real fun, or they have certain knowledge, or always on a certain level, they can be trusted. And so whatever my emotional needs are that make me like and love these people the most, when they're gone, I don't have that. And often people crash when the very things and people that they love the most disappear from their lives. They crash. So we need to treat, these are signals. Whatever we like and love the most in our life, it's a signal for healing. Because how are we when we have the void of them? It's the void of the good things that make us feel bad. Yeah, it's the excess of the bad things that make us feel bad. So we not only treat the excesses of the bad stuff, we treat the voids of the good stuff, so that we are on a level. We don't crash. We're no help to others when our loved ones and partners go away. I know people that literally kind of metaphorically, hang on to their ankles as they leave the door. Don't leave me, don't leave me. My life would be so bad without you. You've been my neighbour for 30 years. I could always trust in you. Yeah. Well, if you love trust, then you hate the opposite. You hate not having it. So again, it's a signal for healing. Many people don't think about the loving good signals. They're all signals.
Mm. Yeah. Fantastic, fascinating, Chris. I'm really conscious of the time, so if anyone does have any questions, we've got a couple already, but please type them in. Will it be okay for you, Chris, if we just sort of stay on, if we wrap up in about 5 minutes, but stay on a little bit longer just to answer a few questions?
Absolutely, I'm enjoying myself.
Oh, fantastic! Well, so if you do have any questions, please type them in. And I'd just like to also say we're running a workshop with Chris. A weekend workshop coming up in April. I'll put details of this on the screen about that if anyone would like to find out some more information about it. We're doing one on the 5th and 6th of April. And when I look at this one, we've got about 4 places left on that one. We've just added another date on the 10th and 11th of May. Do you want to just say a little bit more about what you'll cover in that weekend?
Oh, of course, yes. Very important. I'll be introducing some of the laws of opposites. I will introduce the main tool that we use in RR. Remember, I will also describe how we can use other tools and other therapies. And we'll learn how to treat what I call the basic framework, which is the most used framework of balancing opposites. This is whole value conflicts, where a lot of emotions come from. If the values are not treated and we only treat the emotions, they will come back in other ways and we'll keep attracting those traumas or issues in our lives. So we'll look at creating neutrality around value conflicts. We'll be looking at to create neutrality around the emotional programmings that we hold, if we hold anger the most, or shame, or guilt, or whatever. We'll look at the emotions, the good emotions that we hold that we don't like to be without, and we'll be learning to treat those. That's treating ourselves and treating others. We will learn how we can actually start to a little bit. We'll touch on how we can a little bit treat ourselves to treat other people, and how treating other people treats ourselves. But a very good thing is that we must learn to also treat ourselves of how we react to other people's issues. We want to be in a state of neutrality around as many different clients' issues as we can. So we will learn how that we can actually treat ourselves while we are treating our patients. So if somebody's very depressed or suicidal and we're all on edge, unfortunately that's going to transfer somewhat and make it a little bit worse, and it's going to make it hard for yourself. So we're going to learn how to treat that within ourselves as well. Preferably ahead of time, but we can actually do it even while we're treating the person that we're working with. So that would be the full 2-day introductory. It will be a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, stories, metaphors, explanations, demonstrations, and practice. And as I teach it, people will be practicing it and joining in my demonstrations, just a sentence at a time. So by the time you actually get pair up and practice some of these techniques, you would have already done it. It will seem like, oh, I've already done that. So that's what some of what we'll be covering in those 2 days.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a great weekend. So I hope you'll be able to join us for that. There's information on the screen anyway. You can click through and find out some information when we've finished. So it's coming up to the hour now. So I think we'll just, for anyone that needs to get off, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the session. We certainly enjoyed it, and it's been great to have you here. And then, with your permission, Chris, we can just start and go through a few questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Please do.
Great. So yeah, hopefully you can stay on and join us. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to type them in, and I will get through as many of them as we can. So starting with Barbara, she says that many therapists believe in spirits, guides, etc. to help. You talk about positive and negative regarding the energy contained within a person only. Oh, sorry, the screen's just jumped. How do you reconcile the spiritual beliefs with your work?
Well, I work with spiritual beliefs as best as I can. For instance, when I'm working, if I'm finding I'm getting stuck, I have therapists live and dead come into my vision. Some people may say that's something psychological that I built in there in a trancey type way, and others it may be spirit. And I will incorporate kind of both ideas, and so that it's acceptable to the people I'm listening to. It's very important to realize that these energies, whether it's of the person or of the spirit, good or bad, bad energies, like bad emotions, if we feel fear, we might say that's a negative emotion sometimes. It's very positive. It saves our lives every day. We may feel guilt. That protects us from doing a bad thing and repeating it again and again. And to me, it's really not a lot different. Bad spirits, if you believe in spirits or those types of energies, I think often have a very good intention. And they may be very angry. Why are they angry? Let's work with that. Maybe they have an opposite idea of what the person in the physical world does. So I'm looking to balance all the time. I work with people with religious beliefs that will be very different from mine. And it's important to incorporate their beliefs. So with RR, I created what I call the belief buster to be a neutral way. So it would not be swapping one belief for the suggested belief, suggested maybe obvious positive belief that would be better than the client from the practitioner's point of view, or I wouldn't include what the client particularly wanted in a new belief necessarily, because that more positive belief may be limited by the values and emotions and stresses they've got going on at the time. What I do is I work with loving and hating, agreeing and disagreeing of the belief, and maybe an opposite of the belief that the client comes up with. And then what actually happens is all of that comes together with a neutrality, and that person may rapidly get a new belief that comes up from the unconscious and what's best for that person's nervous system, energy field, physical mind and body. Or what it may do is just lessen the intensity of the original belief and just allow more openness for new ideas to flow over the coming days, weeks, months, years, and the rest of their life. So what we're doing is we're not consciously manipulating a belief. We are creating a neutrality where that person can choose what is best for them in the current time. Maybe that helps somewhat. Yeah,
fantastic. Great. And if you want to ask more questions about that, please do. And there's a specific
maybe they can email if I haven't email you if I haven't fully answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a question I just want to find earlier on. That Sally asked specifically about EFT. So going back to the tapping when we're talking about that.
Yeah.
She just asked, what do you think about positive EFT, Sylvia Hartman's work?
It's very good. We have been working in that line, or a few pioneers of ourselves, one of your TFT trainers in positive kind of ways forward within thoughtful therapy for many years. It's good. It's a good idea. It doesn't actually go quite far enough. I enjoy Sylvia Hartman's work. I think she's a wonderful person, wonderful trainer. We've got a lot to learn from her and her work. But I do believe we can actually go a lot further with it. What they're doing is tapping on a good idea or a good thing to lessen some resistance to that. But they're not really working in the powerful opposites of love and hate or like and dislike and so forth. So really it could go a lot further. Sylvia Hartman has added another element to, in psychology, a lot of these wonderful techniques that have become very, very effective over the years and have surfaced, unfortunately had been limited by the beliefs that the forefathers of psychology gave us. We want to feel less bad about a bad thing. That's a great start. But that's one part of it. I'm looking to treat 18 parts to an issue to fully get at it. If there isn't time, we can do 4 parts, 8 parts to whatever moves the person forward. But if we really want to clear the energy system, we've got to be looking at 18 parts. So yeah, it's a good thing. I do believe that you can take that on board. You know, brilliant on her to bring that out and forward. For me, it doesn't quite go far enough always, but sometimes that's all somebody needs. And you know, you would be, and the client would be, perhaps the best judges of that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that, Chris. That's brilliant. Leela asks, is reflective repatterning used with people who have experienced psychosis in the past? So can it be used? I guess she's asking, can it be used with people who have experienced psychosis in the past?
Well, you know, there's a whole area of not working with people with mental health conditions unless you're trained in that area. So first of all, I'd like to say no. 2, if you are very well experienced and with their main health provider, whether it's their psychiatrist or doctor, they wanted you to do a bit of work with them alongside, then you would be guided by them. Have I used it? Yes. There was a very interesting case with somebody that was going into a complete manic phase, and they were very kind of scary, and they were frightening a lot of people. And I suddenly became aware of this. They had no medications with them. So I went over, and they were shouting and kind of right nose to nose in my face. And so I gave equal and opposite force back in saying, close your eyes. I can't close my eyes. Close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. And then as soon as they closed them, open again, close your eyes. And I just suddenly went into opposites, and I was able to create equal and opposite force, and they completely calmed down and spent the next few days without any medications, feeling as best as they could. What happened? They had obviously a neurochemical response change, very immediate. Was that a long-term solution? No. Would I advise them to go back and get further help? Yes. A lot of these conditions, there are some great alternative specialists. The Patrick Holford's work with the Brain Biocentre in Richmond, Surrey, work with a lot of these conditions alternatively with psychiatrists and doctors who know about the medications. Neurofeedback can be very helpful also with these, with an ongoing talking therapies. To use RR with those sort of mental health conditions, I would say 99.9% of the time don't, unless you are experienced in that field and maybe you have the qualifications of being a psychotherapist or psychiatrist. You've got to be very careful. If people got lots of inner voices and stuff going on, or go through highs and lows, there's enough opposites there as it was. Saying that, there was also a case of bipolar, very interesting. And I said to the person one day, you know, think of somebody that you love or like the most. And they said, oh, X. And I said, what do you like about them? Oh, they're always steady. They're always on a level. And I went, oh. And how are you as different from that? Well, of course, they were highs and lows with bipolar. So they treated the by loving and hating through the various frameworks of being always steady on a level, being there for everybody, and you know, being able to be trusted on that you always be going to be in as kind of a safe place, to the highs and lows. And very interesting, because it certainly calmed them down somewhat, but the effect of RR is when we treat ourselves thinking about something or someone, the something or someone always changes as well. And that very evening, the person that had been stable throughout their lives actually had massive arguments and shouting and screaming and let a lot out of their system. People that like to be on a level, or who are on a level, it's often because they don't like the highs and lows. Maybe mum or dad or guardian, or they had experience of people that were very volatile, and so they have to keep themselves on a level. We're often what we don't like. I hope that helps somewhat.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And Julie says that she's interested in this, but she's not actually a therapist. She hasn't studied anything before. Is reflective repatterning still something that she could train in if she wants to get into therapy and work with people?
Yeah, absolutely. I bring this forward for people that just want to learn a bit, want to help themselves. Some people that have got some experience, and absolute professionals. And the groups that I've worked with will always be a mixture of all. And that is also good, because there'll be professionals on the course that will want to work with people with live issues that maybe haven't worked with them themselves because they don't have the experience. And that means those people that are very new to it can pair up. But we'll also have people who are assisting, and at any time people can put their hand up and ask a question if they use a terminology that they're not knowing of, and so forth. But I think you'll find that I have taught very mixed groups over the years. I've taught just professors in psychology and psychiatry. I've taught complete newbies, but generally the groups are a complete mixture of all, and people go away with the tools that they need. Sure.
Great. And also it's probably worth just pointing out that the groups are, we're keeping the numbers small, so it's going to be quite a small group, sort of 25 maximum. And that means that they're going to get lots of attention from you and so on. So, even if it is something you're totally new to, Julie, then, you're going to get lots of time with Chris and lots of attention. It's not going to be like a huge group. So, so that's fantastic.
I'm always open, people have questions afterwards, they can email and so forth, and I enjoy all of that, so people will have questions, and I'm not one of these people that just do a training and go goodbye forever. I'm there, you can, I'm approachable. I'm a human being, a strange one, but I am a human being. I might have an opposite to that at times.
Well, that's great. I think that seems to be all the questions, unless anyone else wants to type anything in the next minute or so. Otherwise, thank you very much, Chris. It's been a great session. Really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Duncan, introducing me to such great people, such great questions and good questions yourself, and bring me back to awareness of what's going on from time to time. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you very much to everyone that's joined us tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your questions and your comments. This is being recorded, so you will be able to get the recording of this probably sometime tomorrow, maybe the day after. If you're interested in taking this further, there's a link on the page you can click through and read all about the course, all about the weekend. And if you have any questions, or you want to know anything, just email us. All our details are on the page, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or anything like that. So thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, all the listeners as well. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Brilliant.
And if you liked it, you can tell us, but also tell everybody else.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's great when people sort of spread the word about stuff. So, Leela saying awesome. Cheers, guys. Emma, thanks. Dawn, thanks. Leela, brilliant. And the chat box is cutting off for me here for some reason. So thanks to everyone else who's typed in, who I can't see. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, Chris. And good night. See you later. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.